Hello, sorry. I was trying to figure out how to record on Instagram too, but it says you have to hold it the whole time. Is that correct? Because that is awful. I don't want to hold the button the whole time. Let's see. Make square videos for Instagram. Nope. Okay, well, we'll just forget it then. We're just gonna forget it. And we will see if I can share this while I'm live. No, I cannot share this and be there and blah, 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 blah. So let me take that down. I was making this on my computer so I could use my phone for Instagram, but clearly I have no idea what I'm doing. That's okay. I'm trying. Hey, Sean, how are you? How's your weather over there? It is getting cold here, but it's pretty. So I want to talk about finding inner alignment. Let me share it right now that I figured out how to make this work. Okay. So many of us think when we go to have, well, let's talk, what does inner alignment mean? So most of us have like a sneaky voice in the head that's saying, I should do this. I should be doing this. I want to do this. You know, we've got that sneaky, that sort of like incessant voice that's telling us that we want to do something else. And that can sound, I knew one woman years ago who said, my voice tells me to put a suitcase in the car and lock the door on my children and never come back. So it's that voice that like gives you that gut reaction of like, I should run away from my entire family because this is overwhelming today. And it's the voice that's like, why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you meditate? Maybe I should quit my job. Maybe I should write a book. Like it's that voice that's always talking. Maybe I should break up with this person. You know, it's that voice. So let me just move the lighting now that I don't need the tripod for Instagram. It's a bit cloudy here, so there we go. So most of us hear that voice and it's saying something pretty extreme, right? Either it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, it's going to shake up our whole world. We might not entirely want to do it. So we hear this thought, we hear this like guide tell us to go do something in our own heads, this intuitive impulse, and it's freaky. And we don't want to do it. And where's the middle ground? And this and this. And then what can happen for so many of us is that we then beat ourselves up for not doing the thing because the thing itself sounds like a really big leap. Because going from who you are today to quitting your job, massive leap. You know, there's things to figure out there. Going from a relationship that's kind of okay to we should break up and move across the country, big leap. So it's fine that those things are scary. And it's also fine that we put them off, right? And we just say, I don't know. But what that does on our inner trust level is it degrades our own sense of trust because we're assuming that that inner voice is the voice of wisdom. We're assuming that that inner voice is the voice of truth. And when we don't follow it or listen to it, we start to doubt ourselves and think that we're not following our own heart. So basically, it's a kind of a big setup for frustration and disappointment on all sides. Because not only are we not doing the scary thing, but then we're letting ourselves down, but then now we don't believe in ourselves, so we don't trust ourselves even more, you know, so we like get in this cycle. We get in this cycle, and where the cycle leaves us is feeling out of alignment and feeling disappointed in ourselves. So I want to talk about how we actually go about finding inner alignment and building that level of confidence in ourselves. And I say this because alignment is like head and heart, right? And body, that we're all on the same page. We're all on the same page. A good example of not being on the same page is if the body's like, I don't want any chocolate cake. Thank you, I'm full. And the mind is like, but you love chocolate cake. I want chocolate cake. I definitely want chocolate cake. And the heart is like, if I have chocolate cake, I'll feel loved finally because I never did as a child, right? So we play these like games and we're not on the same page. So alignment is this vertical shape to me, where not only are the body, the heart, and the head on the same page, but we're also aligned to the physicality of our being and the spiritual aspirational aspects of who we are as well. Because we want both of those elements of our being to feel like home and to feel like that we know how to be more than what we are and exactly what we are at the same time. So that's why I make this gesture for inner alignment. So here's what I've noticed in 5 years of helping people discover and live their purpose. So part of my process, part of my unique process, the soul system, we go through and figure out, okay, what's your soul's vision of the world? What's your purpose? And then we drill down to something that I call the key elements of your soul's joy. So like, What about you? You living your soul's purpose. What does that look like for you? What's important about that? What needs to be there? What key elements have to be at play for you to be happy, for you to feel like there's meaning being created in your life and that your life is meaningful? And then flat out, what makes you happy? What makes you happy? And what I've noticed over that 5 years is that the top pieces of the soul's communication never change, right? The vision doesn't change, the mission doesn't change, your purpose doesn't change, but the way that you interpret joy can change slightly based on your own level of nuance and depth in yourself. So here's the thing that everybody hits up on though, and I have struggled with this with clients for 5 years, and I struggle with it myself because we all hit up on this exact issue, which is the soul tells us, I would like to expand and explore and feel good about myself over here. Dancing, painting, reading more, meditating, going for a walk every day, joining a club, calling more people, and interacting with friends more, traveling more, hiking more, being alone more. The soul gives us these tiny, tiny clues about what we should do. And they're so small, we disregard them. They're so small, we disregard them. And what happens is we disregard those small clues, and then we only hear the big ones. I should leave my relationship. I should move across the country. I should quit my job. I should write a book. We hear these giant ones, totally freak ourselves out. Hear the small ones, ignore them. Right? If this sounds familiar to you, please put an emoji in the comments. I will raise my hand. Sounds familiar, right? So it's not that you're not getting signals. It's not that your soul's not communicating with you. It's not that you don't know how to make yourself happy. It's not that you don't know how to be in alignment. It's that we're disregarding the small things that come up and freaking ourselves out about the big ones. And I'll point out about the big ones that in my experience, the big ones are never true in the sense that we don't need to do that one particular big action in order to feel fulfilled and aligned. What's happening is the soul is getting at the feeling that it wants you to have. So it's trying to communicate, like, just do these little things that'll make you feel good, that'll make feel better than this. And the mind is attaching it to its understanding of how that could look. So it's like saying, the soul saying, I want to be happy. And the mind is like, happiness looks like the beach. We should go to the beach, right? But the soul's not saying, I want you to go to the beach. The mind is imposing that image on the emotional desire of the soul. And so that big sort of thing you keep thinking, like, especially if it's something scary. And I worked with a guy once who was like, I don't want to leave my wife just to discover my purpose. And I was like, what are you talking about? You don't have to leave your wife just to live on purpose. Like, these are not the same things. But he had in his mind that following his dreams meant leaving his entire world behind. That is just an image that the mind has attached to explain what happiness feels like. But really what we're going at is what happiness feels like. So what I've done with people in the soul system is we get to these small elements of joy. And they're usually really small. And they're usually things that you could do every day in your life right now. But we're discounting them. And so when it comes to finding inner alignment, you don't have to, drop out of life and backpack across Europe. That might be part of your desires, but that's not where we start, right? That's not where we start. We start by giving ourselves on a daily basis the food that the soul needs to feel joyful. And for some people, because it's totally individually dependent, for some people, that means artistic creation. It means dancing. It means singing. It means painting. For some people, it means reading. For other people, it means going for walks every day, or a combination of a couple different things. And it's entirely unique to you what those little things are. But it's the small joys. It's the small joys that add up to feeling meaningful and aligned, and like your life is a reflection of who you want to be and how you want to be. And also that your life is giving you that feedback loop. It's coming back into you and feeding you and filling you up with feelings of joy and meaning. It's the small things that do that. It's rarely the big things. And all of those small things, like once we're on path with that, once we're I call it feeding yourself, but yeah, once you're feeding your soul joy on a day-to-day basis, those big things can unfold because you're kind of following the breadcrumb of joy at that point. And so it feels better and better and better. And you kind of, like Abraham Hicks says, you soothe your way into it instead of freaking yourself out about this massive thing that's in your head that you think you need to do. The other benefit to that is, like I said, the big things that we think we need to be in inner alignment, meditating in a cave in the Himalayas, like whatever is in your unique version, whatever's in your unique image of what you think you have to do to be in perfect alignment. That image, like we said, is just capturing the feeling of what the soul is trying to get at. And the mind is imposing that image because it's trying to like attach what it knows is a possibility to those feelings. But when you start to use small joy, small alignment, small steps, the image that you end up in, the life that you end up in, could be totally different than what that image was trying to show you, but feel the same. So that's where we say, you might have heard people talk about, like in military planning terms, we say we do the planning not for the outcome, but for the sake of planning, because you can intend to have this specific outcome, and just because you get over here doesn't mean that it's any worse, right? It's still a phenomenal outcome. It's just not exactly how you thought it would happen. And so when we talk about releasing attachment to the outcome, this is what we're talking about. That the vision in your head right now that you think looks like inner alignment may or may not be where you end up. Because alignment is the process of getting there. It's the process of feeding yourself on a daily basis with what the soul craves and desires and loves and wants to, you know, be in relationship with in order to feel good and to bring out the full expression of who you are. And where that leads you is the exact right place to be, but it may not look like what you think it needs to look like, because the mind is working in imagery, the soul is working in sort of symbols and feelings, and the two of them together aren't necessarily coming up with the exact perfect future representation. But they're giving you clues. They're giving you clues. And joy is a big clue here. Joy is a huge clue. And I don't mean joy necessarily as in like the high you get jumping out of a plane, because that's like an adrenaline rush kind of joy. But that's not necessarily a sustainable place that we want to be on a day-to-day basis. And then there's sort of like opening joy, you know, where something happens and you're like, oh, that feels so good. I just feel connected and in myself and proud and peaceful. Peaceful. That feeling of everything in the world is right is a really great indicator of inner alignment, because that's the stillness that's beyond the spinning in the world, the spinning in the mind, the drama in the world, the things that we get attached to that drive us insane, that we can't sort of pull our way out of because it's a never-ending puzzle. When we get to that moment of, oh, everything's great right now, this is a beautiful moment, I'm very content right here, that's a signal of inner alignment. So I'll tell you a quick story that made me laugh. I should have pulled it up before this. Actually, maybe I will. No, I can't remember. But somebody sent me an email probably a year ago now, and I'd worked with this person 6-7 months before that, and I'd worked with her for probably 6 or 7 months. So there's a time here, right? There's a time here. And we got through the clarity around the soul's purpose. We got through the clarity around the action to take every day. We got through the clarity of what to be doing to feed the soul and to come into inner alignment. But the answers didn't look like what she thought she needed to do. Big vision, I think I should be doing this. Little answer, paint, read, dance, laugh. All of those things did not look like the valuable actions that would lead up to this vision that was in her head, right? Because she was working on creating a new business. I need money, I need to expand. So all of her thoughts about what was most important in order to make the biggest amount of headway in creating this life of her dreams were about, I should be doing like marketing and money and this kind of stuff and reaching out to clients. And her soul was very clearly saying, dance, paint, sing, hang out with your kid. But you know that feeling of like, I can't possibly do that? Like, that's not productive. That's not important. That's not getting me where I want to go. So there was this real tension, this real tension between what her soul was saying was the way to alignment, and what her mind was saying needed to happen. And she fought it. She fought it and she fought it and she fought it. And so we stopped working together because I don't want her to spend money on something that's just not working, right? That's just, we're missing each other. We're not taking the steps. And I trust the soul, I trust life, so I know what the steps are saying, but if you're not willing to take the steps, there's not much I can do, right? Except try to convince you and help you see it differently. So I got this email 6 months later, just amazing. And actually, I do remember, I'll look it up because it's worth reading. If I can find it quickly. Just a quick thank you. Hopefully you can still see me. Just a quick thank you. I wanted to share, I've been making time to do as you suggest in terms of the time that she needed and trusting and pleasing herself, slowly revisiting all my notes from the work. It's powerful stuff. I'm only now embodying it more and it feels amazing. I'm so excited about the shifts it's bringing in. Took me a little while, but what a gift, and I appreciate it. And no doubt, you know, all of this work that I've been doing helps shift some stuff, but just hope you know that it stays with people and benefits you. So I was just so blown away when I got this email. As you can imagine, because here's somebody who fought and fought and fought and fought and fought, and all of a sudden 6 months later says, you know what? I followed my soul. I followed my soul. Not what I say. That doesn't matter to me. She followed her soul's insight. The tiny, tiny things. Giving herself joy on a daily basis in the way that her soul interprets and needs joy, right? Finding meaning on a day-to-day basis, connecting with people in the way that's meaningful for her soul. And lo and behold, it opened up the exact path that she wanted to go down. Now, that is not an easy conversation to say with ourselves. It's not easy to, on a day-to-day basis, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess convince ourselves that feeding the soul is more important than following the mind, right? It's a very tough conversation. And for most of us, it plays out every single day. And for most of us, the mind wins. Because we know how to, yeah, we know. Oh my gosh, I love that comment. Yes, I actually tell people I'm a professional arguer. What do you do for a living? I argue with people. I argue with people on their own behalf. I'm arguing with you on behalf of your soul because you're not hearing it. So I'm just going to show up as your soul and continually speak to you as your own soul. And eventually you'll like what it says because it's not me, it's your soul. I love that. I love that. But that's the point, like these small, small things, it's a very hard discussion, and almost every day our minds win because we know what it's like to be validated externally. We know what it's like to check items off a list. We know what it's like to put in action and get a result. We all understand cause and effect. And if I want clean dishes, I do the dishes, right? If I want a hot meal, I have to cook it. Like we get cause and effect. What we don't understand on a deeper level around living your purpose is that the cause and effect isn't necessarily visible because it's energetic. It's the way that you are. It's who you're being. So to live your purpose, it's about being you, right? It's about becoming the most expansive and refined version of you. And being and becoming you is not an action per se. There are actions involved, but it's a way of being, which means that that sort of cause and effect loop that we're looking for isn't necessarily visible. And that drives most of us insane. Insane, right? Because we want it to be tangible. We want it to be something like, well, I sent 5 emails, and so now, look, I'm evolved. And it just doesn't work that way. That doesn't mean there's not actions to take. Like, for your soul to feel fulfilled and expanded and able to move into the fullest expression of its purpose, there are actions to take there, right? Because we're here now and we want to grow to here, just like a seed starts here and it has to grow to here. The seed has actions that it goes through, but those actions are, they're like intuitive actions of unfolding, And that involves trusting and releasing and surrendering to what's coming through you. So when you have those little whispers, meditate, go for a walk, maybe call a friend, maybe smile more, take a new class. Like when you get those little whispers, it's not saying go from seed to plant in one day. It's saying trust life to allow you to unfold into the fullness of who you are. You are already it, just as the tree is already in the seed. They are one and the same. But there's a process of unfolding to get there. And that's what we're talking about. So you don't have to say, oh my God, I'm meant to be a tree. Everything's wrong. I need to cut off my entire life and start over. No, that's too much. It's too much. We still have to get there. So it's not the big things that we look to for alignment. It's not the big things. Because the outcome, like we said before, if you didn't hear this, if you're just joining, the outcome doesn't have to look like what we think it needs to look like. It's like a hint. It's like a hint to get you to move in the right direction. But sometimes we freak ourselves out about what the image looks like and we take it literally. But it's not cause and effect literal in the way that the tangible work world is, right? We're talking about subtle things. We're talking about symbolism. So we look to the feeling. So whatever's giving you that feeling now, even if that feeling is wrapped up in frustration, because for most of us to get to a feeling of contentment and peace and alignment, we got to go through some frustration, like sitting down and doing the thing, pushing ourselves out the door to go for the run. You know, whatever it is, that we got to get over a little hump and hurdle to get there. But once you're there, we find that feeling of, oh, this feels great. This feels great. And that's those little things on a daily basis. So this is not complicated. This is not difficult. This is not something that's inaccessible to the everyday person. If you want to feel more aligned with yourself, if you want to live your purpose more fully, if you want to feel like you are on the right track to living a meaningful life, then go do the thing that makes you happy today. I don't mean the big thing. I don't mean the quitting the job and leaving your spouse and all of that big stuff that we worry about. And I don't mean leave your spouse, but you know, some people have that as like in their heart. They think that's what they have to do. They have to cut out everybody in their lives. I know that because I moved to New Zealand away from everybody in my entire world. So I get that feeling. Turns out I didn't need to do all that, but you know what I mean. So, you know, do the small things. If you like cooking, cook. If you like having parties, have a party. If you like the feeling of your heart pounding because you just did a first. Oh, I hope she's not watching that. Yes, but that's actually a great example. So we think, this is a slightly different topic, but we think we have these intransient, is that the right word? That's not the right word. Intractable? We think we have these situations in our lives that aren't going to change. And so we're afraid, many of us have this deeper fear. It might not be conscious, it might just be behind the scenes. This fear that if we're really all this, then I'm still going to have to deal with that, but now it's going to be so much worse. It's going to be so much louder, and the pain is just going to be bigger. But the thing is, when you follow the joy in the way that I'm talking about, these tiny steps of inner alignment that are small, they're day-to-day steps of inner alignment, they're day-to-day steps of joy, then we evolve into the person. Remember, seed going to tree. We unfold into the person where these types of issues fall away. These types of issues fall away. And the ones that are there, thank goodness, because that's our next level of growth. That's showing us something. Because again, I trust life. I trust life. I trust life to give us exactly what we need at exactly the right time to interpret in exactly the right way. But it's the small things. It's really, truly the small things. Nobody believes me. Nobody wants to do it. I'm in that boat too, right? Every day I wake up, same message, right? Meditate, right? Meditate, right? Meditate, walk. That's all you need to do with your entire life is sit down and meditate. And I'm like, that can't be true. I've got to email my list. I've got to make videos. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. And so I spend my day hearing that voice and being like, that just can't be true. That just can't be true. And then every time I get there, I go, right. This is the truth. This is the truth. I work crazy hours and I've convinced myself that when I have more time, I will do this, this, and this. If I ever take time off, I don't do it. Why? Resistance. Yeah. The thing about it is, like, this is a big question. I ask this to myself every day. Why don't I do the things? Why don't I do the things I know I need? I need to, should to. There's really no good verb here, because I don't mean it in that way. But we all have this. I ask it for myself and I ask it for my clients. Why don't they do it? Why don't I do it? What is actually happening here? And the best thing that I can come up with in myself from the feeling of really sitting with that frustration in myself and that sort of space, that sort of void of why aren't I doing this, like really, really looking at the truth of this, what I feel in myself is a fear. And it's a physical fear that when I feel that good, I don't, words are failing me here. When I feel that good, I might not care about things. When I feel that good, I don't know how to ground myself because I'm used to grounding myself in tasks. I'm used to grounding myself in physical discomfort. I'm used to grounding myself in a schedule. I'm used to grounding myself in my personality and sarcasm and drama. And I don't mean drama in a derogatory way. I mean like the daily dramas of life that we engage in, the stories that we're a part of, and relationships. So when I feel that good, it's so expansive and so disconnected from all of that stuff. I don't know where to ground. Now, of course, when I'm in that space, that's not true. That's not true because it's obvious. You're in that space and you're like, oh, this is amazing. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to move through the world. I know how to interact with it. I know how to show up. It's in that space we don't have that fear because it's clear. But I felt in that resistance to doing the thing that I, on a deep level, know is the thing that would feel like home and help me on my spiritual path of expansion and exploration, that is a discomfort with how good it feels. And that might not be true for everybody. That might not be true for everybody. But for me, and what I see in my clients is like, it's that fear of it being that easy. It's that fear of it feeling that good. Because then what is all of this? If it was that easy and is that good and it works so beautifully and that's who I am, then why am I in all of this? Right? Like it just challenges our fundamental choice that we've made to prioritize this life and all the dramas and all the things over the really easy way that it could be. And most of us don't want to deal with that. Right? We don't want to deal with that like kind of deep existential question about why are we spending all of our time over here when we really just could be there and it's so much better and so much greater, and then everything we do impacts on an even deeper level because we're now just showing up for our lives in a different way instead of just trying to get somewhere. Most of us don't want to face that on a day-to-day basis. So it's easier just to not do the thing than it is to navigate the space between those two ways of feeling and being. I don't know if that resonates with you. That's what I found in myself. It's a fear of feeling good and of letting it be easy and of realizing that it's the true beingness of who I am that does everything, and all the doing is pointless, kind of. Not pointless in the sense that we still need doing, but doing from that aligned place of being is very, very different than doing to keep ourselves busy. And most of us do to keep ourselves busy, even when we're upset about it and we want a different result. So I'd love to hear if that resonates with you, but that's what I found in myself. It's a discomfort with how good it feels and how expansive it feels. Yeah, it just challenges our way of being, which is what we want ultimately, right? If you're here, if you're on the journey with me, I mean, and by with me, I mean, we're both on the path together, and my group is called the Free and the Brave because I believe we're on I call us the brave souls on the path to inner freedom. So if you and I are on this path to inner freedom and we're talking about inner peace and we're talking about inner alignment, then chances are we're hitting up on this a lot. We're hitting up on this a lot. And we have to face this question and make a decision probably every day, but at some points there's going to be big leaps in the decision of like, I'm willing to face that fear. I'm willing to be in that uncomfortable space. I'm willing to renegotiate how I live my life. I'm willing to potentially be wrong and have wasted a bunch of time. I'm willing to be sad about that. I'm willing to forgive myself about that, you know? So we make these decisions, big and small, as we go along. Must have convinced myself that I needed to improve something in order to live my life. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a huge one. I'm so glad you brought that up. This is actually, I think, one of the biggest things that makes me laugh, but I do it too, but I laugh when other people do it. People go, I can't come to yoga, I'm not flexible. What? That's why you go. Nobody's flexible when they start unless you're a gymnast. Or people who are like, well, I can't focus, so I can't meditate. Meditation is like the bus that you take to get to focus, right? You want to get to inner peace and awakening, you take the bus of meditation. You want to get to the grocery store, you take the 52. Like, meditation is the thing that takes you there. It's not the thing that you have to know how to do it to get on the bus. It just makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh. We have this image in our head of who we have to be in order to be able to live. And that's what I want to say, actually. I'm so glad you brought that up, because we'll bring it full circle. That's one of the problems that we hit on with finding inner alignment is we have these grandiose visions of exactly who and how we have to be in order to be in alignment. And so if I'm living here in Syracuse, New York, in a second-story apartment in a house on a street that blah, 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 then I can't possibly be living the fullest expression of my purpose, because in my head, I'm like climbing a mountain in Tibet. Do you see how we set ourselves up for failure? It's like I predetermined in that way of thinking that I'm not in alignment and I can never be, because I'm failing my own vision of who I could be. And I'm never going to get there if I look at it that way, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, if I can't be there because I'm here, but I'm here so I can't be there. So what's the point? Why even bother? Why even try? It doesn't matter if I do the small things, because the small things I'm not there. It's just this tiny thing over here. So like, what's the point? And we don't need much convincing to not do the things that make us happy. We do not need much convincing. It is easier to lay on the couch and watch TV than it is to meditate. It is easier to overeat and stuff down the feeling and try to distract ourselves than to go exercise, right? It is easier to listen to a podcast or call a friend or get all caught up in somebody's drama than it is to do the creative project that you want to do. It's easier to worry about money than it is to trust that things are going to work out. That's not necessarily true when you're in a neutral space, but for most of us, we're in a stress space anyway, so it's easier at that point. So we're in this sort of self-fulfilling loop, and if you want out of that loop, the answer is not the big thing. It's not the top of the loop. It's the tiny, tiny, tiny hint of joy, right? It's the daily battle between what you think is going to make you feel better and the thing that would just be so much easier right now, and you could tune out that voice. That's it. That's where your life is playing out. Between the voice and the thing that drowns out the voice. It's the difference between checking in and checking out. And I say this when I used to teach physical yoga classes, like most people go to a physical class to get a workout and check out and like bliss out. And I'm like, you don't come to my class to bliss out. You can imagine my classes weren't that popular. But I'm like, you don't come to my class to check out. You come to my class to check in. You are here with your body. You are here for a reason, and we're going to be in an embodied practice. You are here to check in. But checking in requires a level of consciousness that most of us don't want to deal with, because we've got to confront ourselves. We've got to confront these fears. We've got to confront our own hypocrisy. Nobody wants to be a hypocrite, but we're all hypocrites. So like, just deal with it, right? But like, nobody wants to confront that, our own disappointments, how we failed ourselves, our own fears about who we might never become when we have this vision in our heads of who we could be, but we're not living it, right? It's that is where our alignment is playing out. That is where our life is playing out. And I mean your purpose, the meaning that you bring to the world, the meaning that you find in the world, that feeling of contentment and inner peace, it's playing out in that small stuff. And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be awake. And that's really the key here, is that you don't have to get everything right in order to be in inner alignment. You have to slowly, slowly, slowly choose the things that feel good and allow life to unfold you through joy, through that feeling of like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And that feeling is on the other side, right? It's on the other side of I don't want to. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I'm too tired. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the creative space. I don't have the... I saw Margaret Atwood speak last night. She was at Syracuse University and spoke in a big chapel. And, you know, to watch a writer have an audience that big was very impressive to me, because a lot of writers don't get those kind of crowds. And of course, she's a writer whose books have been turned into very famous TV shows and movies. So we know why people were there for The Handmaid's Tale, which I don't watch, but because it's scary. I don't fill my head with that for me. So, but watching her, the point of this was, the interviewer said, how do you do it? How do you do your advocacy work and write and work on TV shows and work on movies and this and this and this and be a mom and be a grandmother? And she sort of didn't answer the question. The woman went back. She's like, no, 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 tell me your secret. How do you do it? Do you have blocks of writing time? Do you have this? Do you have this? And Margaret Atwood said, and this woman's written, what, dozens of books for over 50 years? She said, I write when I can, in any way I can, because I've never found that I'm not distracted. Said, I've never found a time that I'm not distracted. So here's a woman who's written books and books and books and books and books, some of which are very famous, and she sort of writes when she can on the fly. She's not sitting down for 9 hours at a time writing, because she said, there's not a time when I'm not distracted. And that's really what we're talking about. There's not going to be a time when you're not given the opportunity to ignore yourself. There's just not. It's never going to exist. You will always be given the opportunity to check out. And the choice of inner alignment is checking in, right? There's always going to be something. You can fill up your schedule every single day, even if you're a total recluse and don't like people. You could fill up your schedule with books or TV or movies or, you know, whatever it is. Or you can even, to be honest, and we may have all been here in some way, but you might know people like this. You can fill up your own life with like yoga and meditation too, but you're going through the motions of it and having it work on you instead of work in you, or you working in it. You know, I've done meditations like I've done one meditation for months at a time, right? And I caught myself going through the motions, like, well, I said I was going to do this meditation, so here I go through the 20 steps. I've caught myself literally going through the motions of something that's supposed to be deeply transformative, because I was just kind of hoping it would work for me instead of me working it. So there was always going to be an opportunity, always going to be an opportunity to ignore yourself and check out and distract yourself. And inner alignment is about those tiny opportunities that gradually, as you choose to check in, as you choose to feed yourself joy, as you choose to listen to the tiny whispers of your heart, not the big whispers necessarily, but the tiny whispers, you build that trust with yourself, you build that experience with yourself, that you unfold into the ginormous magnitude of amazingness that you already are, because all of that lives in the tiny seed. Thank you for getting me going. If anybody's watched me before, you know I don't even like wake up till 30 minutes. In private sessions, I don't even wake up till 2 hours. I'm like, here we go. So that's a lot. That's a lot. And if there's more questions, please post them, or more examples, because these were brilliant. These are brilliant to get us into it. But what the takeaway from this, right? So you have something to hold on to. The takeaway from this is you don't have to freak yourself out about the big things. Just start small. And the small things are going to have resistance in them, and that's okay. That's part of the process, right? We get to a point, and I know this and I believe this, we get to a point where they start to feel so good to do the little things that we actually choose them instead of the resistance. So it becomes easier and easier and easier. But there's resistance around other things, right? That'll be newer and bigger as we're unfolding more and more and more. But so you don't have to necessarily think like, oh my God, every day for the rest of my life, it's going to be a struggle to eat a banana or go for a run or sit down and meditate or write a book. Like, no, the feedback loop changes, and we actually feel good when we feed ourselves joy. We feel good when we feed ourselves fulfillment. We feel good when we feed ourselves contentment. So we start to shift our priority and our, what I call inner allegiance. We shift our allegiance to those feelings of feeling so good. And there's always going to be opportunities to have allegiance elsewhere. But know that the allegiance will build, and we will slowly choose things that are more and more and more in alignment with ourselves, which is how we unfold into ourselves. We be and become into ourselves with that choice, with that allegiance. And every choice adds to the allegiance, right? Every time we feel good, adds to it, adds to it, adds to it, and becomes easier and easier and easier. So it's the small things. It's the small things. Even if there's resistance, even if you're not perfect, because I know I feel deeply, deeply soothed from writing, but I'm not a perfect writer. And so I freak myself out. Like, well, I want to write this perfect thing. I can feel it in my heart, but what comes out is imperfect and incomplete. Oh, wow. That's the journey of life, right? It's about continually getting there. It's continually showing up. Continually showing up. When life says, that's too hard, let me watch TV, or that's too hard, let me drown it out with food, or whatever it is for you, is to keep showing up. Like, yeah, and I'm going to do it anyway, because that's what I keep hearing. That's the little voice. It's like, yeah, but wouldn't it feel good? But isn't that what you really crave? But don't you just want to paint? But don't you just want to dance? And it feels frivolous, and it feels silly, and it feels off the point. But it is the point. It's the whole point. It's the whole point. Give it a shot. Truly give it a shot. Give it a shot, not for a day, but like 6 weeks. Do the thing for 6 weeks. Dance every day. Smile, laugh, read a book with your kid. Whatever that little thing is for you that really, truly just makes you feel great. Do it without asking for the result, right? This sort of like, what's it? Cause and effect, without looking for the effect, because the effect is invisible, it's internal, it's energetic, it's way beyond, I'm going to buy this from the store and get an apple, right? It's way, way, way beyond that. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So just because the effect is invisible, it's the effect of becoming and being who you are on a soul level. So do it anyway. So do it with faith for 6 weeks. Do it with faith for 6 weeks. I guarantee you, the outside things, tangible things will change too. But more than that, you will feel more centered, you will feel more grounded, you will feel more aligned. It's not the big things, it's the little things, at least today. Okay, love you all. I hope you have just an amazing day, and that some part of this really struck you and has inspired you to do something for yourself that feeds you on just a deep level. Because who you are changes the world. Who you are changes the world. And if you sit down today and read a book, you've made my life better. Because the energy of you being at peace brings peace to all of us. And that's why we do it. Even if you can't see the outcome, we can feel it.